text evidence. Can you prove your answer? Remember, it is important that we become detectives when we read, searching through every bit of the text for evidence. And absolutely practice, practice, practice to become really good at it. So let's use Selling to New Horizons, number 6. The reader can conclude that Rezwan believes that F. Educating children is easier than educating adults. G. Floating schools cannot compete with traditional schools. H. Developing technology skills is a necessity in today's world. Or J. Choosing a career is a difficult decision. All right, so what is the first step that we must do? Yes, analyze and understand our question. The reader can conclude that Rezwan believes that. Well, anything that doesn't have Rezwan in it, we're going to ignore because we need to figure out what Rezwan believes. So when we're testing F, let's first find the paragraphs that include Rezwan. Let's look at paragraph 1. I see car, bus, bike, Bangladesh school boat, but I don't see Rezwan. So I'm not even going to read this paragraph. I'm going to move on to the next paragraph and see if I can find Rezwan. Paragraph 2. I see Bangladesh, I see flooding, I see periodic electricity, telephones, but again, I don't see Rezwan, so this paragraph isn't going to help us either. Paragraph 3. Bangladesh, Mohammed I see him right there at the front. And so I'm going to pay close attention to this paragraph and read it. Growing up in Bangladesh, Mohammed Rezwan was often frustrated by these disruptions. Though the floods sometimes hindered his education, Rezwan eventually finished school and became an architect. He did not want to design houses, though. He had a better idea. In 1998, he founded an organization called Shijula Swanavir Sangstha. The name means self-reliance. The purpose of the organization is to help the people of Bangladesh receive an education and also to bring technology and an improved quality of life to poor people in remote areas of the country. All right, so educating children is easier than educating adults. Well, I do see a little bit about education, but I don't see anything about educating adults. And so I'm looking here and I'm thinking, you know what? This paragraph does not talk about educating children being easier than educating adults. So far I don't have proof for F, but I'm not done looking. I'm going to move on to the next paragraph. I'm going to see if I have proof in paragraph 4. So remember, the first thing I do is I look for Rezwan, and I see him at the very beginning. So I'm going to read this paragraph too. In 2002, Rezwan began transforming boats into schools. The boats he used were long and narrow, with flat bottoms so that they could float in shallow water. The decks were covered by waterproof roofs to protect the inside of the classroom from the rain. Underneath the roofs were desks, books, bookshelves, and computers. Each boat was built to accommodate between 30 and 35 students. The boats had everything you might find in a regular classroom. The only difference was that they floated on a river. So I'm looking for educating children, and I do see a little bit about education because we're talking about schools. But then, is educating children easier than educating adults? And there's even nothing, absolutely nothing about educating adults. And so I'm going to put my question mark, and I am going to move on to the next paragraph because there is no proof here. Now, I'm not done testing F because F might be proven in another paragraph. So let's look at 5. And again, we're looking for Rezwan, and yep, I see him. And so I'm going to read paragraph 5. These boats have been a great success. Today, Rezwan and his organization operate 88 boats that navigate hundreds of rivers in northern Bangladesh. About half the boats are used as schools, and the other half are used as temporary houses during the flood season. In addition to the schools and the temporary housing, there are also a floating technology and a training center, a library that allows students to check out books, and a healthcare center. The school boats travel along the rivers and pick up students for classes that include computer technology, agriculture, and human rights. After one session finishes, the boat drops the students off at home and picks up more students. Teachers on the boats usually conduct 3 or 4 sessions every day. Okay, educating is there, but again, I don't see anything about educating adults in this whole paragraph. So, no proof here, and I am going to move on to paragraph 6. So far, F is not looking good, but I'm not done. I want to make sure I'm not going to be lazy. So I'm looking at paragraph 6, and I see community members, special equipment, I see tutorials, documents. You know what? I don't see a Reswan in this paragraph. And so this one, I'm not going to waste any time with it, and I'm going to move on to our next paragraph. And again, the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking for Reswan, because if Reswan's not in there, I'm not going to pay any attention to the paragraph. Okay, so I see Farida, I see facilities, I see future education, I see doctor or engineer, but you know what? I don't see Reswan. So I am going to mark off F because there's no proof for F. And I'm going to move on to G. All right, so we ready? Floating schools cannot compete with traditional schools. All right, so again, I'm not going to go through every single paragraph because I know that there's only 3 paragraphs that have Reswan in there. And so I'm going to focus on only those paragraphs. Which paragraphs were they? 3, 4, and 5. We will completely ignore the other paragraphs. All right, so again, we're looking for floating schools cannot compete with traditional schools. I'm not going to reread because I remember this paragraph. This one was about the organization. This one was about the poor people in the remote areas. The purpose was to help people receive an education. There's nothing about the floating schools competing with traditional schools. So I think that I'm going to just keep moving on. And now I can look at paragraph 4. Remember, we're skipping all paragraphs that don't have Reswan. Okay, the reader can conclude that Reswan believes floating schools cannot compete with traditional schools. Okay, so what are we looking for in here? We're looking for floating schools and traditional schools. Okay, so underneath the roofs, the bookshelves and computers. This paragraph describes the boats, bookshelves and computers. Each boat was built to accommodate between 30 and 35 students. Oh, look at this. The boat had everything you might find in a regular classroom. So this one is actually saying the opposite. It says that floating schools are just as good as traditional schools. So I'm marking this one out because it says the opposite. And I am going to move on to H, to test H. Developing technology skills is a necessity in today's world. Okay, so we're looking at paragraph 3, and we're looking for technology skills. And you know what? I'm seeing it almost immediately at the bottom where it says the purpose of the organization is to bring technology and an improved quality of life. So if he wants to bring technology, it stands to reason that he believes technology is necessary. This is a really good start for our proof. Let's test paragraph 4 and see if there's anything about technology skills being a necessity in paragraph 4. Okay, and we see the decks covered by waterproof. We see each boat was built to accommodate. We see that the boats had computers. So the fact that the boats included computers means that technology is necessary. Reswan would not have included the computers if he did not think that technology was necessary. So again, we're looking good on this one. Let's look and see if we can find even more proof this might be our answer. Okay, paragraph 5. Remember, this one was about we got the library. Oh, I see there are also a floating technology. So if he is putting a floating technology in there and he is putting computer technology, then he knows that developing technology skills is a necessity in today's world. Why would you put floating technology on a boat if you didn't think it was necessary? So I'm looking at this thinking, you know what? H is probably my answer because I saw proof in nearly every single paragraph that Reswan was in, but I want to make absolutely sure. So, is there more proof for Jay? Choosing a career is a difficult decision. Now, I've read these several times, I've thought about them, and when I'm looking at paragraph 3, I don't remember anything about a career. It's about organization and education. So I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to remind myself what was in paragraph 4. I'm going to see if I can find anything about a career. And I do see books, bookshelves, I see classroom, I see decks, I see transforming boats. I don't see anything about the career. This one's about describing the boats. So notice I can go a lot quicker now that I've read through these paragraphs. And I'm just kind of glancing through, reminding myself what the paragraph was about. The school books travel, technology, students get picked up. Okay, this paragraph describes what's on the boats. There is no career here. So very quickly I have found that there is no proof for J, and I'm going to mark it out. Okay, so this is how we do it, guys. We have figured out that F is wrong. We have figured out that G has no proof. We have figured out that J has absolutely no proof, and we are left with H. And we found proof for H in several different places. So good job, guys, being great detectives.